Hello. At some point you're going to need to proofread your work. Hopefully not in those last few minutes before the assignment is due, but you will be doing proofreading. Now, I think the common expectation or misunderstanding about proofreading is that proofreading is something that's done just that at the very end of the writing process. I, however, have a different view. I like to think of proofreading as a four-step or four-pass method. And here are some guidelines that I think will help you as you proofread your work and prepare to turn in your final drafts. The first stage of proofreading is visual. You're actually looking at your writing, not reading it, but looking how does it look on the page. You know, is your text highlighted and formatted correctly? Are they even? Is everything evenly spaced? You know, does it look good? I mean, are there large gaps of white or places where the text look like it's chunked together? These things can affect the way that your writing is received, especially if it's a persuasive document. You know, are the margins correct? Are they on the right margins that are required, or is there room at the top and the bottom? And have you checked for common word processing problems such as misplaced, cut and paste operations, where you will perhaps cut and paste a word into the middle of another word that you meant to replace. You've gotten rid of those generic template features and those editing scraps, things that things usually show up in Microsoft Word. The other thing that I suggest that you might do at this visual stage, rather than the content, and something that I often do, is to turn your paper around. Look at the back of it as it's printed out. Hold it up to a light so you can see the shape of the writing, the shape of the way you have it laid out. Does it look good? Does it look professional? If it doesn't, that's a pretty big indicator that you need to go back and do some visual proofreading. Now the next pass is the conceptual pass. This is where you're going to read through your document, think about the concepts you're working with, the ideas that you're working with. Are your ideas clearly stated? Do you focus on your main point, whatever that main point may be? Do you focus on, or do you shift throughout the course of the writing, seeming to blend two papers together, perhaps? Are there subordinate ideas related to the main point? In other words, is that outline working for you? You have a primary point and then supporting or subordinate ideas following that. Is there a logical sequence to the material? What I mean by that is, does it make sense in the way you're presenting it? Is it a linear presentation, and time-wise you start at point A and get to point B, or do you skip around a lot? If you skip around a lot, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you need to make sure that the sequence that you're dealing with is logical. And is your audience focus maintained based upon the communication context or that you've done, or what thoughts you've done in terms of what your audience is like? Who is your audience, and are you focusing on them during the writing process? The next phase is the oral phase, listening. It's where you listen to your document. You can read it to yourself. You can read something to yourself over and over and over again, and think everything's right, and then suddenly someone else will read it, or you'll hear it read, and you'll realize you've dropped articles or messed up, a phrase. Well, what this oral proofreading does is it shifts the context of your experience with your writing. What you're looking for is a word choice that is clear, specific, and accurate. But you might want to, read your paper into a tape recorder, or your audio recorder on your computer, then listen to it, or have someone else read it to you. When you do that, you're shifting the context so that you're more aware of what's going on in the writing. You can avoid jargon. You can make sure that if you do have jargon in it, that's appropriate to the business or the industry that you're in, that it's used correctly and appropriately. You'll be able to pretty quickly find out if your sentences are overly wordy. There's what I call one breath test. That can you read your sentence in a single breath without gasping? Unless you're an Olympic swimmer and you've got an incredible ability to hold your breath for a long period of time, you're going to find that long series of sentences, a long phrase, is going to cause you to have to take in a breath of air, which is more or less kind of a natural breaking point. It's not in no way is it a hard and fast rule, but it is a good gauge of whether you have too many overly long sentences. On the reverse, maybe the sentences are all too short. You kind of want to have a mix there, long sentences and short sentences, long paragraphs, medium paragraphs, and short paragraphs. Does the tone, and by tone I mean the way it actually sounds, the way it is read, is it appropriate to your reader? Is it is there an elite aspect to it, as if you were reading to a classroom full of PhDs, or are you trying to tone it down some and read to an audience that perhaps is not as sophisticated as that group of PhDs? Listening for that tone will help you determine if what you've written is appropriate to them, and whether that's going to get to them, or whether that's going to have the effect on them that you hope it will have. And finally, the fourth pass, as you can see here, is I call it the structural pass. This is what most students jump to in the proofreading process, right? And this is what you're doing right before you print out that final paper, or email it, or submit it to an assignment. You're looking at the structure. Did you check your spelling? Don't forget to check for words that while spelled correctly are not correct in the context, such as very often confusing from for form, or the appropriate to. There are 3 twos in the English language. Are you using the correct forms, even though it's not misspelled? It may be misused. Is your grammar well formed? Do you avoid fragments and run-ons? Have you made use of parallelism effectively? All the paragraphs the same length, or do they vary in length? They should vary, by the way. And is your punctuation accurate? Check for words like its and its for accuracy. The one's possessive, one's not. Do you need a comma or a semicolon, or a regular colon? Look it up. If you don't know, if you're not quite sure about punctuation or the grammar, take the time to sit down and look it up. Check it against the APA style. Check it against the elements of style. Check it against a dictionary. But just check it for these structural aspects. And by doing this, in the end, what you will end up with, though you have put more time in on what you may think is necessary for the proofreading process, you've actually gone through and looked at all 4 aspects of your paper and of your written document. These aspects will make your paper stronger. If it's a persuasive document, it will certainly improve the argument if you look at these 4 passes. So again, just So we review. The 4-pass method includes the first pass, which is visual, the second pass, which is conceptual, the third pass, which is oral, and the fourth pass, which is structural. Okay, take this information, and I hope it gives you a fresh view of your work.